All right, we got to start. We're running late already. All right. Production ready, React with GatsbyJS. So a little bit about me. I am 25% Armenian. That is a real photo. This is my first time in Armenia. I'm actually really happy to be here. It's exciting. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming to the talk. There's some more people filling in now, so that's good. But this is actually the man that started it all. So that's my grandfather. And so you can thank him that I'm here today. And that's me. Apparently I was into the arts like from an early age. So I have like street cred. Also about me, I am a developer advocate for GraphCMS. Anybody heard of GraphCMS? Got a couple hands, very good. Headless CMS based 100% on GraphQL. This is not a headless talk. So if you have questions about that, totally hit me up afterwards. I'm a husband, I'm a father, which means that I am qualified to tell really bad dad jokes. So there will be some evidence of that coming up. I am an American, which means that I talk really fast. So if I'm going too fast, give me one of these, and I'll just slow down. And if I'm telling too many bad dad jokes, give me one of these, and I'll try to cut back. Also, I'm a nice guy, but that part is a work in process, so I apologize if you run into some bugs. All right, hands up. This is a survey. Who is actually using GraphQL in production? Very good. Who is then, who's heard of Gatsby? Even better. And who's using Gatsby in production? This is really good. I'm going to send some stickers back there. I don't actually work for Gatsby, because I told you that already. Pass these on just behind you guys, or take some. Take some and pass it around, sorry. This is an interactive talk. I didn't actually mention that part, so just you got to watch out a little bit. This is the work in progress part. I throw things. All right. If you want more stickers, I have some. The Gatsby people were very nice to actually send me some stickers for you all, so I got the hookups. All right. What makes React great? And it's you guys. Like, really, it's the community. You guys are active, you're involved, you totally have a passion for creating really interesting and cool projects. You have really a library for everything, anything you can imagine. That does kind of lead to what actually makes React hard. And that is that there are, as of NPM, so this is over 86,000 packages that have the word React in it, let alone the ones that are meant for React that weren't on the branding train. So, like, there are a lot of choices out there. And the thing that I say personally is that when it comes to building websites, I want my hammer to have minimal opinion, right? So I want my tool to not really care how I use it. I want it to have a lot of choice and a lot of freedom. That being said, when I build a house, I want my blueprint to have maximum opinion. I don't want it to be so freewheeling and say, okay, yeah, put a door here, put a window there. Yeah, that's your call. No, blueprints should be having a lot of opinion. And with Gatsby, you get that. And then we call this the wisdom of the crowd. So no offense to any React people in the room. But Gatsby actually has more contributors. So Gatsby is made up of a ton of people who have been putting a lot of thoughtful opinion into this library. They're trying to say these are some very sensible, common patterns that you may find helpful. Like we said, there was over 86,000 packages on React. Well, it's difficult to actually choose one of those. The reason why Gatsby, in my opinion, the reason why Gatsby actually has so many contributors is that they have socks. So if you become a Gatsby contributor, if you make any pull request, documentation, actual code base, anything, they will actually give you credits, and they will let you use those in their store. And you can buy socks, you can buy pajama pants. They have a funny name for those, I forget what it is, the work jammies or something. This t-shirt was also contributor work. It really makes for a very engaging and interesting community, and I think that React could probably learn something here. I think React socks could totally be a thing. I'm just, free advice here. All right. So what is Gatsby? Gatsby is a static site generator that turns content from nearly any source into very fast websites using community-validated best practices and the interactive backing of a React application. So that was a lot. Basically, what we're saying is it's going to take content, no matter what it may be. Could be a flat file, could be a YAML file, could be an actual REST request, could be anything. It pulls that into a single API, and then it hooks it up into a React template, and then it will actually rehydrate that once it hits the browser and gives you your free, gives you a React app running live. Gatsby is an API that provides thoughtful escape hatches for cases where the default opinion needs to be overwritten. Gatsby also has a lot of really nice backdoors when you need to actually override the default opinion. So if you need to do something after the page is loaded, if you want to override how the provider is actually occurring. These are all features that are built into Gatsby that actually give you really good superpowers. And am I going too fast yet? Is everybody tracking with this? It's my usual status check here, so good. All right. So Gatsby is, so it takes any of these files. So I mean, this is really anything that you could actually hook up a node back in to read and interpret. So it could be text files, music files, it doesn't matter what it is, any source. It brings it into Gatsby and it mashes it up into a single API. It creates a React application, and then it spits it out into basic website files, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So it combines all those files into a GraphQL API, generates the files into the static assets, and then after it's loaded, it'll actually pick up where the API was created, and it'll rehydrate that project. So rehydration is usually one of the trickier steps in building a React application, is being able to get that dynamic data working back in place. You can see that I've indicated the logical locations that Gatsby's provided some of their hooks. So you can override behavior inside of the combining phase. So when the API is being generated, you can also override things in the generation process. So all over the place. Oh yeah, rehydrate. All right, Gatsby's internal architecture is not simple. It's not. So I'm not going to try and lie to you. It's a very complex process. However, oh, I guess I left them both the same size. All right, it's good. Getting a website online with server-side rendering, routing, rehydration, all the other React buzz topics by using Gatsby is actually simple. And I'll demonstrate that towards the end. Not every case is going to be able to have, most cases are not going to be able to use the cookie cutter approach that Gatsby gives you out of the box. But you could literally have, within about 10 minutes, a production-ready website using the CLI. Gatsby is like an IKEA instruction guide. Are there IKEA fans here? I tried looking up to see if Armenia actually has IKEA. Is there IKEA here? No. Do you know who this is? Okay, so little culture context. Basically, this is the guy that you see when you're building an IKEA project, where it's like I have 10 more screws now, and this bookcase is already built. Why? Or I have the bookcase is not built, and I don't have any more screws. So whatever the case may be, this is usually the indication. So you will be convinced that it is wrong with Gatsby. You'll say, this is terrible. This is broken. Forget it. And then at some point, you'll realize, oh yeah, there's actually a lot of contributors. They chose things for a reason, and you'll realize it's probably not Gatsby. All right, so lifecycle of a Gatsby compilation. Phase one is the build process. So basically what happens is you run the build command. It sources all of the data from the various sources, those flat files, the REST requests, whatever else it is. It transforms that data using Node APIs. It generates a schema, a GraphQL schema, and then it'll look inside of your templates for page queries and anything else you may have. And it'll actually then fetch from the generated schema, it'll actually make a GraphQL request, pulls the data into your template, and then it builds your files. I've indicated here at the bottom as well where you have some of these hooks again, so you can override default behavior inside of the Gatsby node file, the Gatsby config file, and then later on towards the build step inside of the Gatsby browser file, which also works for the hydration step. Phase two is actually then serving the static files. So basically, after load, rehydrate the application, and then it serves up all of your crazy long hashed app, vendor, whatever else files that Webpack gives you. Oh, yeah, then a little arrow. So then you get the rehydration, the last step. All right, so what makes it really interesting with Gatsby is that you get the unified data layer. So you take all of those sources, and then you're able to actually browse and inspect the final compilation of all that into a single project. And there are a lot of GraphQL hands in here. When you want to see what kind of data you have available to work with, it's really nice to then actually have a graphical browser after this compilation phase where you can then see what's the data that I get to actually work with. It's what we like to refer to as the aha moment with GraphQL. And I'm trying to move along here to get to the demo so that you guys can see how some of that works. The unified data layer takes all those files. This is not actually the types that Gatsby generates. I try to simplify it a little bit to make a demonstration or a point. You have posts, you have authors, you have REST requests, maybe products, and then it generates the GraphQL types out of those so that you're able to potentially connect those and work with them inside of the layer. Then the goal here is on step 3, that you're able to write a query where you get post, title, author, the name, all that data connected together in a single API. And who's using Gatsby? Actually, a lot of really big names. This isn't even half of like the big names. It was just the ones that I thought were prettier. Yeah, like they're all using them in really fantastic ways. There's people creating e-commerce websites with Gatsby. There's people creating really interactive applications, booking applications. I mean, the stuff you can actually do with a static site once you actually hook up a rehydrated React app behind it opens up the doors in a lot of really interesting ways. A lot of these names are also then helping to back the project. It's an open source project, and so there's a lot of weight behind it. That's making it a very promising platform to build on. If you work in agencies or whatever else, you have a lot of possibility to know that it's probably not going away for the near future. And if there's anybody else who's been through the static site wars, you know what I'm talking about. Like, there's a long list of bodies in that space. So that being said, we're going to switch now to demo, and I'll show you guys a little bit how this looks. I am going to attempt to actually install some dependencies live. So conference Wi-Fi gods, please smile on me. All right, so let me live type. It's kind of a strange little angle here. Now you guys can memorize the file path here to my my operating system. I will boost the font here. All right, so let's boost this a little bit more, like a lot more. How's that? Everybody see that in the back? Very good. All right, so I have previously installed the Gatsby CLI. If you guys have come across Gatsby or you people have come across Gatsby in the past, the Gatsby CLI phase used to be like a ridiculously long install time. That's all been fixed. So we're going to go ahead and generate a new site here, and we're going to call this Gatsby new, and we'll just go ahead and call this demo time. What it's going to do is it's going to actually go ahead, that's fine, don't ignore that. It's going to go ahead and pull a default boilerplate from the Gatsby repo. It's going to try to anyways, and then it will fetch all the dependencies, put it inside of a new project called demo time, and we'll have a Gatsby site here in a couple of seconds. Conference Wi-Fi is working out. This is like watching horse races for developers, kind of like who's going to resolve first. All right, okay. All right, so we have the project. We're going to go ahead and cd into the folder here. And I'm going to go ahead and actually compile the website first, and then we can do some live, some develop mode. I'm going to go ahead and run Gatsby build. How are we doing on time? Good? Halfway through yet, or 15 minutes? All right. We're cruising. There might even be some question time at the end. No promises. So we're building. Good. And then I'm going to go ahead and do Gatsby serve. That's Gatsby serve. Thank you. All right, and so it's just going to run here locally. But you have a production-ready website ready to go that this could be put onto any simple FTP server if you wanted to, and this would actually work. So creating a React-ready application with Gatsby is really fast. So let's go ahead and actually see how a project looks. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the terminal here and shut down the server. We're going to go ahead and develop this. Got a few things going here. Let's see here. Back to there. Very good. So Gatsby develop. It's going to run up a little. Oh, I already have things running. I'll forget that. We'll run it. Kill that. We'll run it over here. All right. So we're going to run this guy here. Shut him down for now. All right. So this is how the project looks. Basically, what you have is you have the public folder that gets built, and that's where all the actual static files live. You have a source folder here, which is what all the defaults from the templates include. You have standard React components folder, you have the images folder, and then you have what's unique to Gatsby, and this is the pages folder, and this is where it'll actually find any React or any JavaScript file that's standard, React in here will get generated by the routing logic into an actual page. You guys can see that okay in the back, yeah? We'll assume that's a yeah, okay. And I'm going to go ahead and run this guy now. Something's beeping. Not sure if it's me or somebody else. All right. So are we running here yet? Let me check. I'll close the terminal. All right. While that's running, oh, there it goes. Yeah. So we have the simple the root page here. So hi people. We're going to go ahead and change that to something a little bit more specific. I'm not used to coding at like 500x zoom here. Go ahead and minimize that, and we will say, hi, Armenia. Back to our page, and it's working. So this is all fairly standard stuff you've probably come across in the past with React Create React App or other features, but what's really nice about this is it is just full of heavy opinion on just how to make this actually work quickly and really well. I'm going to try and throw 2 more demos in here real fast in the remaining time we have. One is I'm going to be actually fetching from GraphCMS. So I have this project inside of GraphCMS. I have a lot of projects inside of GraphCMS. This one here called Mountains. A simple list of mountains from the US. Pretty mountains. Yeah. Good. I'm going to go ahead and pull that in so it's making a GraphQL request to a third-party system and bringing it into a development environment. So we're going to go ahead and shut down this server here and open up the next one. And we're going to call this the, pretty sure it's my machine that's beeping. I don't know what it's mad about though. All right. So here's a demo where I've done some basic overrides, and it's including the Tailwind CSS library. So what I've done here inside of Gatsby config, I'll just make that a little bigger here, is I've included some plugins. So I included the Tailwind CSS plugin, and then I've also included the Gatsby source GraphQL, where then I was able to provide an additional GraphQL URL endpoint. This is just a part of a standard kind of plugin system that then fetches the GraphQL request and will actually stitch it into my Gatsby API and give me the data to work with locally. So if this guy is up and running yet. Let's see here. Is that really me making those beeps? Nope, it's not me beeping. All right, someone else is beeping. All right, good. So I'm going to go ahead and explore this. All right, I see you. All right, so pulling in the data from an additional system, putting it into a nice library. This actually has nicer styling than is apparent on the projector here, but you can look at the repo if you wanted to. If you want to have a boilerplate for GraphQL stitching plus Tailwind. Tailwind's a pretty cool library on its own right. So pulling in an additional remote server of data, so pretty successful. The last demo I want to show you is then how you can start to get a little bit fancy for those edge cases. And I have named this last project the Sorcerer because it's got multiple sources. That was a dad joke. It's good. All right, so we have, that's demo time. We can close that guy down. All right, Sorcerer. I actually built this morning, so hopefully it's not going to break. And I'm going to actually demo what I have done here. So I'm going to hide this and show you actually what I've added. What I've added here, so inside of my sources, you guys can see that okay, yeah? We have inside of a data folder, I've added what's called a brands.yaml file. So I have a couple of brands. And then I have products. I have a couple of images in here. So Adidas and Nike. I like shoes. I'm not ashamed. And then we have a products folder of some flat files. So we have Adidas, Nike, and Under Armour. And with the stitching of all this together inside of my, my node folder here, my node configs, what I have done is mapped it so that when I make a request to the front matter of that image, it's actually going to be fetching the images folder and resolving that resolving the images from the GraphQL source node. So if you want to try and map data in a custom way, this is like not beginner stuff at all, but if you want to try and maybe handle in a very custom way how the behavior is mapped, you can override every part of the actual schema generation. Inside of my config as well, I have also created a mapping system where I've mapped here at the bottom, I've mapped that brand. I've mapped the brand name to my brand's YAML file so that I can nest all that. The last little bit here to just demonstrate how that then looks. So we'll open up the GraphQL Explorer here. So if I wanted to actually go through here and say, browsing for those products here, and we're going to go ahead and grab. Boy, the jacket was a mistake. I can go ahead and grab the brand. Yep. Is it good? Yeah. Boy, it's very high contrast. Cool factor, very subjective, but whatever. And then I have the body. You can see now, and if I want to add the image, and we'll go ahead and just grab the relative path on that. So you can see that I have taken multiple different sources. I have customized the behavior of how they should map together. So I've said, OK, this markdown file maps to that YAML file. That combined schema should actually do an override on the image fetching to go ahead and grab another API. And it gives you a simple set of data to actually work with and be able to model your projects around. So that's basically like all the time I have for the talk. You can see that with Gatsby, the 3 things to remember is with Gatsby, it's a really fast way to get started building a website. There's overrides for everything that you could imagine. And the third thing is that I tell dad jokes. So that's all I have for you. You good? 5 minutes? All right. 5 minutes for questions. Any questions? Hopefully none. Oh, got a question. Okay.
Is there a standard way to build multilingual websites?
So it would be mapped around basically how you want to model your data. So if you're going to be using flat files or as a REST point, there's a hook called onCreatePages that you would then basically say, when I'm sourcing this content, whether it be the flat files or whether it be from, say, a REST server, it will then go ahead and say, OK, if I have maybe an EN and a DE and an AM language flag, go ahead and handle these different with the routing, give it a different, maybe a different slug. And so then that slug could be converted for the router for, but it's dependent upon how you're actually sourcing the original data. But on create pages and on create node is the hook you want.
That I will have pre-rendered as many HTMLs as many I have languages.
Yep. Yeah. Static site generator. Yep.
Thank you for the talk. Because the name of the presentation was about production, Gatsby production, I would like to know the situations when you would use Gatsby and situations when you wouldn't use it, or actual like cases when, in your experience, like you need Gatsby and without any tool you can do that, something like that. For example, Gatsby can make things easier, much easier than, for example, server-side rendering and
I mean, so obviously with Gatsby, there's multiple tools that would accomplish the exact same thing, right? So the cases where I would definitely recommend using Gatsby are cases where you have, let's say, either a microsite or you're ready to create a brand new site from scratch. Those are perfect examples to get started with Gatsby because it is just really quick. It's really any situation where you're going to have multiple properties and you want to be able to edit those in a fast and a clean way without having to, say, hook it up to a really complex. I mean, it's a perfect match for a headless CMS because you can have a centralized content repo here. You can have then a targeted microsite there. You can have then your main website over there. So if you're working especially in an agency context, Gatsby makes a lot of sense because you can build client websites in a really fast way without having to rewrite the book or rethink of all of the patterns each time. Yeah. That answer the question? Or?
Yeah.
If not, you can find me afterwards. I'm the big bald guy. Any other questions?
This script from here link.
What's that?
Script from here link or another link?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This code.
Yep.
Here link.
It's connected.
Connected.
Yeah. So this is a GraphQL query, and this is how Gatsby actually queries data from that generated schema, and then it generates this JSON response for you that you can then loop over. Is that the question? Okay. We're out. 3 minutes. All right. Like, any more questions?
He mustn't have a dead joke.
Doesn't work that way. On-demand dad jokes. No. Sorry. Find me afterwards. Any other questions? That wasn't a question. That was a request. So I'll say that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I ask for questions. Questions? That was kind of a dad joke, sort of. So.
Where do HTML files holding in projects? Do Gatsby generates?
Where are they, you asked, or?
Yeah.
So-
HTML and CSS files.
Yeah, so it's inside of this public folder. So it actually gets generated into then, so you have the index.html, you have then the static folder, which is all of these crazy hashed file names from Webpack. But whenever you run that Gatsby build command, it puts it into the public folder. Yeah.
And one more question. The Gatsby server, how is it good for production? Is it used in production, or is it buggy, or?
The Gatsby serve, you said, or?
Gatsby
what?
server. Do it exist in production in server?
Oh, the server, you mean?
Yes.
The Gatsby server is only for testing things locally, for being able to actually see, does this actually work? So does the compiled code actually work? This is HTML and CSS, so you would just dump this inside of any Apache folder or wherever else that you would want to run your website. So you could run this inside of GitHub Pages, you could run this inside of any simple web server you could imagine.
How do you handle this in CI/CD, for example, auto deployment?
Yeah, so CI/CD is a bit more wide, and we can definitely, we can probably ask me some more after. It actually leads to a really good topic that I want to just mention. So there are new developments happening, for example, with now.sh, where they're doing this like pre-compiled server thing, and you can literally have a static site that will only regenerate and rebuild the parts that have changed. So it's actually kind of closing the loop in this stage of where with a traditional static site generator, you had to rebuild the whole site for every change. And now with Now, you can actually iteratively just change like the part that was actually updated. But you would use something like GitHub hooks or something of that nature to do a CI/CD process. Yeah. Which is what we do actually. Netlify is a very good way to get started as well. Netlify has a lot of defaults for Gatsby ready to go. I think I'm out. Good. All right. Thank you so much.